Welcome to Larry's Library. It's the first Tuesday of a new month and of a new year, so it's time for Top 10 Tuesday. And I like to start off by looking back at 2023. And I know a lot of channels and a lot of people like to do their top 23 reads at the end of December, but I like to wait until the entire year's finished or very close to finished and put it out in January. So that's what I've done here. So back in, I believe it was August of 2023, I did my top 10 reads of 2023 so far video. And there has been some changes in that lineup. If you remember that video or if you've watched it more recently, it'll be interesting to note what has shifted. A few things have fallen off and a few things have been added. So we'll get into it. So this is going to be my top 10 reads of 2023. Now, these aren't necessarily books that came out in 2023. They may have came out earlier than that, but I didn't get around to reading them until 2023. So that's the criteria. So from the stats I've been able to look up here, I have read a little over 85, I think 85 or 86 books last year. That's a lot of books, and most of those were comic books. Most of them were collected editions. There was a couple, more than a couple. There were several omnis in there, and an assortment of other sizes and formats, and a couple of prose books, but mostly comics, mostly collected edition. Most of those books I did review for the channel, so if you want to see those reviews and get more in-depth info on the books I'm going to list here, then by all means check my reviews playlist, which I will link up above and probably stick it down below also. And you can flip through there and look those up if you haven't already seen the full reviews of these books. This is just going to be a list, and I hope you enjoy it. So at number 10, I have a non-comic book. I got to look at my notes because this title is so long, and I've got it so wrong so many times. But I read A Beautifully Foolish Endeavor by Hank Green. Now, this is the sequel to an equally long-titled book, an absolutely remarkable thing. But this concludes that story, and it is awesome. This was, well, it's science fiction is what it is, but it's like nothing I've ever read. He weaves in bits about, well, more than bits, a lot of bits about social media and the effects on society that has, and it goes into VR, and of course, well, I gotta stop myself from giving it away because I have a tendency when I talk about this one to go into some plot points that are definitely spoiler territory. But yeah, this is by Hank Green. He is one half of the legendary Vlogbrothers. If you've not heard of them or you've not checked them out, you really need to. The hype is real. They put out some fantastic stuff, and this book was a hell of a great read. At number 9, I have Catwoman Lonely City. Really, really good DC oversized hardcover format. Beautiful art and a nice script by Cliff Chang. Great stuff. If you haven't read Catwoman Lonely City, do yourself a favor, pick that one up. It's great. And that's number 9. At number 8, I've got The Fifth Beatle, the Brian Epstein story. Yeah, I did a full review of that, so I won't rehash it here. But yeah, great, great book. If you're a Beatles fan, you definitely want to read that one. At number 7, I've got Daredevil Yellow, the Gallery Edition. Another great team-up of Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale. Another kind of heart-wrenching story about love and loss. It's fantastic. Number 6, I've got Twilight Man, the Rod Serling story. Rod Serling and the Birth of Television, I believe is the subtitle. Yeah, so if you are a Twilight Zone fan, you got to read that book. It's really, really good. Talks about all the behind-the-scenes stuff he went through. Talks a lot about Rod Serling's life. And yeah, it was great. As a long time, since I'm a little kid, fan of Twilight Zone, this one was sort of written for me. But yeah, it's very well done. It's a great one. At number 5, I've got one that I reviewed with the Omnidog on his book club show, and that is Days of Sand. Really remarkable graphic novel talking about a real world event that happened in history, an actual historical event that America shouldn't forget. And if they have or they never knew about it, read Days of Sand. Yeah, it's a very powerful story. Very well done. Beautiful art. An amazing, amazing story. And that's why it's number 5. Number 4, I have Garth Ennis's original graphic novel, Sarah. Yeah, I did a full review of this one too. If you haven't seen that, check it out. I'll have it linked up. Sarah by Garth Ennis with beautiful art by Steve Epting. Yeah, is number 4. At number 3, I have Noir Burlesque. Another fantastic original graphic novel. This is a crime, a black and white, mostly, a little red, a crime noir story. It's fantastic. I did a full review of that one as well. But yeah, this one could have easily been number 1. But I had so many things to push into this list that it did end up being number 3. Number 2 is Night Fever. Now, this is another great pairing of Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips. Original graphic novel. Some of you might be surprised if you've seen my segment of Near Mint Conditions, YouTube's top reads of 2023, where this was number 1. And here it slipped to number 2. But that's because number 1 isn't a comic book. And I believe that was the conditions of Near Mint Conditions show, was these were comic book, these were comic books you had to choose from. They could be single issues or collected editions or what have you, but they had to be comics. And so that's why it's number 2 on this list, but it was number 1 in my submission for Near Mint Conditions video. Number 1 is the same book that was number 1 in my top 10 reads of 2023 so far video, and that is Return of the King by J.R.R. Tolkien. That held its spot. It was tough. It nearly slipped, but overall, I got to say that was my favorite read of 2023. I had never actually completed reading Lord of the Rings, the original trilogy. I know, it's crazy, right? I hear the gasp through the screen here, through the camera. I hear the gasp. You know, I'm a huge Tolkien guy. I'm a friggin' modern day Hobbit right here. You know, how did I not have read all of that before now? I don't know. I mean, I started reading those books, the first one, back in high school, and it just was a slog to me at the time. I just could not make it through it. I had been reading Conan's, all the Robert E. Howard Conan books. Had no problem getting through them. And I read The Hobbit multiple times. Loved The Hobbit. But that first book of the trilogy was just such a slog for me. I got about halfway through and I kind of put it aside. And I thought, well, one day I'll get back to it. Little did I know it was going to be, 20, 30 years later before I got back to it, but that's what happened. See, is that right? Yeah. Well, more than 30 years. They sneak up on you, the years do, believe me. If you're not there yet, you will be. So, but anyway, I did finish it this year, or last year, 2023, and I did love it. It actually made me cry a couple times toward the end, but they were good tears, and it is a fantastic series, a fantastic book. If you haven't read it for some reason, you put it down, you put it away like I did for so many years. Don't wait 30 years. Don't wait, a chunk of your lifetime to read it. Read it now, because it is fantastic. And that's why it's my number 1 read of 2023. But it's 2024 now, and we got more great stuff coming. More stuff is coming out all the time, and I'm reading through stuff in my backlog all the time. So there's going to be plenty more reviews and features to look forward to in the new year. And I hope you'll join me there, or here rather, on the channel. Subscribe if you haven't already. Post your comments below. Tell me what your top 10 reads are for 2023. And I'll take a look at them. And thanks for watching. Really appreciate all the support. See you next time.